here we are with a new episode of the ARTFUL podcast, guys. It's Matteo, your host, as usual, and welcome back to the podcast. Before we start, today we got a special guest, a really good artist. And before we start, don't forget to subscribe, click the button. It will really help the channel to grow and will let me to meet new artists so I can interview them, and just do it will really help the channel and for me to be able to invite more people and just grow the numbers. It's all about the likes and share now. Anyway, in this episode we have a great artist. It was I was a bit nervous when I asked her to come on the podcast because I know she's busy. She works with the university that I went to, UE in Bristol, and I can see her on Instagram. She's always producing something. She's always in the studio. She's always printmaking. Yeah, and we have another printmaker in the studio, in the podcast today, and I really enjoy her prints because I just like when an artwork has a really strong contrast between dark and lights, and she does those urban landscape which are really interesting, and she explores this abandoned building where you can find their piece of history. Basically, she's documenting the past, which is really fascinating for me, and I can't wait to talk to her. And no further ado, this was Jemma and our studio chat. Do you mind if we
How
jump?
have you been?
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it's been good. Enjoying a little bit of the sun coming out finally.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we had a bit of doom and gloom with the rain, didn't we?
Yeah. How's it going for you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I spent most of the weekend in the studio just researching really new projects and doing a bit of mono printing, and that helps me generate ideas. Went on some really nice walks as well because we are really fortunate to live in such a beautiful place as Bristol.
Yeah. I'm always busy, obviously.
And what, sorry?
Always busy.
Always busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to be busy. The idea of just sitting in front of the TV absolutely fills me with dread. Oh.
Fair, I understand. It's good. Yeah. Do you mind if we jump into it straight away and then?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's great. So, Jemma, how you doing? About like, what are you doing now? For like, have you got any project going on? And
I do have quite a few projects going on. Two, I can't really say what they are at the moment, but they are really exciting. One is kind of a different direction to what I'm used to working in, but that will all come apparent in maybe 1 or 2 months' time. Apart from that, I'm still doing all my usual ruin exploration, kind of coming back and recording what I've seen, documenting places through printmaking. So there's a few sites that I'm working on at the moment. One is from an old mill in Taunton, so I'm just kind of finishing off a series of etchings on that place. And then a couple of weeks ago I found this amazing building in South Wales called Wern Works. I don't know if you know Wales at all, but it's it's like nestled in between the River Neath and a canal, and it's in the most beautiful kind of location, but it's just a shell off a building that once would have been thriving with industrial life.
Okay.
So I'm kind of making progress with some monoprints thinking about some large-scale etchings, because I haven't gone big in a while. So I've kind of got this urge to go mega.
Go big, yeah.
Go big, yeah. Once you go big, it's really hard to go back and work small.
Yeah.
I don't know if you find that, but the smaller you go, I just know it's got to be big. It's more impactful.
For me, kind of the opposite. I really like working like small and like normal-ish kind of size. When I try to go like big, I don't know, it seems to me to just lose track of what I'm doing because there's too much to film on. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm just not used to like a big size. But yeah, it's just for me the opposite, to be honest. When it's small, it just feels more intimate, and I can paint or draw like and be focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you wanna introduce a little bit of yourself and what you're doing, and obviously like how we met through like uni?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Jemma. I'm based in Bristol. I've been here for 5 years. I moved to Bristol from Wiltshire to study the MA Multidisciplinary Printmaking. So I finished that in 2018. And since then, I have continued my practice and really kind of homed in on intaglio printmaking and lithography. And that is where I met you in the etching studio at UE. So as well as kind of my own practice, I do teach part-time. So I work as a technical instructor in lithography at the University of West England. And for me, teaching really does it's a two-way process. So I'm learning from students, but I'm also teaching, and that is a really nice cycle to be involved in. So after graduating in 2018, I set up my own print studio at State of the Arts in South Bristol. And I was awarded an Elizabeth Greenshaw grant to help me with that setup of the studio space. So in my studio, I etch with zinc, copper, and I have like a little baby litho press. So I've got a few stones that I can work on if I don't want to do a big one at UE. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Wow.
Yeah. I print all day, every day, pretty much. So I'm really fortunate to do something that I love every day.
Yeah, that's because you use as well you have your own studio, right? And you use the university facilities, which it will help in a way.
Yeah, so if I want to do like a big lithograph, then I'll go to UE. But my etching press here is 80 by 120, so I can do all my big plates, all my big prints in my own studio, which is really great because I can leave it in an absolute mess and go home and come back the next day. Don't have to tidy up after myself, which is definitely the perks of a studio.
Yeah, especially like if you do etching and stuff, like it's so messy.
It's so messy. Like I mean, you come to my studio, the floor is just orange from ferric chloride. The sink is just rusty, but I love it. But it kind of allows you more freedom when you've got that sense of
it's your own space.
Yeah, no restraints.
Something I ask all the people that I'm interviewing, how did you deal with the COVID situation, the lockdown? Just because, especially like even for what you do, it's quite, you need to go out, you need to be out in like open space, and you need to go searching for this like urban landscape. Did you manage to do anything like any of those, or did you did you struggle because we were supposed to lock down?
So at the beginning, I took it as a chance to pause. Like my schedule was a bit crazy, so that was kind of a blessing in disguise. And I had literally no projects because I was about to go on a 7-week residency to Venice. So I kind of had nothing in the pipeline. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just do all the things I want to do. So I made clothes, I made loads of food, and kind of, a bit of DIY. And then I was like, I need to get in the print studio because I'm missing the etching. So obviously we were allowed out 1 day a week to go on an isolation walk. So on those walks, I always took a sketchbook and I just drew, whatever my walk kind of the path it took. So whether it was trees or whether I went into the city, that was really quite spooky because there's nobody around. It's very ghost-like. So from these sketches that I made, I then started doing a series of lockdown etchings and lithographs, and just looking at kind of spaces in the city that are quiet, tucked away, that people would just walk past and maybe not even pay attention to. So it's kind of like celebrating Bristol again, because I live in Bristol, but I don't really experience city because I've been working in London quite a lot and going from place to place. So it kind of rekindled my love for Bristol city. Okay. So I did manage maybe like April time just to get stuck straight back into a project that I'd set myself, just responding to my isolation sketches. And then as soon as we could drive to go for a walk, I was like, great, I can now drive to an abandoned building. So that's when I found Taunton, the mill in Taunton, and I went up to Stoke-on-Trent to look at the potteries there. I went to an ironworks just outside Frome. So I've kind of been on all these like little urban adventures, and I'm now like overwhelmed with the amount of the kind of material I've got to work from.
Is do you work through so you said you were going for a walk and take do sketches. Do you work through the sketches, or do you take picture of the and then you come back to them?
Yeah, so my isolation walks, I kind of did them all from sketches, which I don't normally do, because when I visit an abandoned building, depending on how safe I feel, I'll either sit and draw. But if it's, I don't know, if it's in a busy place and I might get caught, then it's more of a snap and go type of situation. So I usually work from photography and sketches. But yeah, for my isolation kind of series was mainly all done from my drawings, and a lot of it was kind of imagination and mark making. I'm going to add a splodge there because I want to, and it looks nice, kind of,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a bit more freeing, I guess. And there was no pressure because they're not for anything. It wasn't,
it was just
for an exhibition.
you.
They're just for my own well-being, if anything, and just to get me stuck back into the print studio.
Yeah, sometimes you get, when you work on a project, you put so much pressure on yourself. You just sometimes not enjoying it, feels like. And then when you get to the point, like when you do something just to sketching, just to paint, just for the fun of it, it feels so much better.
It's so nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish all projects could feel like that. It's like, I'm just doing this because I want to. Well, I do want to do a lot of projects, but you're right, there is a bit more of a pressure behind the making of the work. When you've got a deadline or there's an exhibition to prepare for. But yeah, when you just do it for yourself, it's really enjoyable.
Did you think that your practice changed through time, especially like moving to Bristol, doing the university here?
Absolutely. So before I did my MA, my BA was in drawing. So I've always drawn throughout my whole life. Since I can remember, I've always kind of drawn. But on my BA, I was kind of started to become interested in the impact humans have on a place or a location or the environment. So I was kind of recording changes in the landscape, and I was doing that through monoprinting and collagraphs. And then I moved to Bristol, and obviously built up city, and I came across this derelict building behind M-Shed. I don't know if you know it. It looks almost like a fragmented tooth just kind of jutting out the landscape, quite castle-like. And when I did some research, I found out that it used to belong to an old jail from like the 18th century. And that kind of sparked this interest in historic buildings and the fact that they're fading and there's no voice for them. People just walk past and ignore them. So over the last 5 years being in Bristol, my practice has taken a complete change in direction from being quite abstract to more representational, kind of documenting these heritage buildings that are kind of going to fall into complete disrepair and just be lost. And unfortunately, the one in, behind M-Shed, that has just been really cleaned up. So it's lost its kind of ruined charm, and just kind of encapsulated in all this urban development that's going in those areas. So yeah, it has really changed. And I hadn't really previously done much etching before the MA, and the same tutor as you, Ian Chamberlain, kind of said, maybe you could try etching because there's something, there's potential in the marks that you're making. And from that comment, I just really focus on intaglio and lithographic processes throughout the whole of my MA, and they do sit side by side really beautifully. Over 5 years I've changed from abstraction to the more representation.
It's nice the way you're talking about you want to document, you want to report those places to people, because most of the time they don't see it and they don't even know what they are and why they're there and why they're being abandoned. So it's quite interesting your approach to what you do, because you're more like you won't document, you're like a reporter that want to show people those places.
Yes, completely. And this is kind of this isn't kind of a new thing. If you look back in the 18th century, there was artists like Piranesi. If you know his work, he was an Italian artist, and he was documenting the antiquities of Rome because he couldn't foresee a future for these buildings. And it's kind of this similar with my work, is that will there be a future for these spaces, because of let's face it, it looks a bit kind of doom and gloom for the future of the planet. I don't know, it's kind of like making these records of time. They're kind of timeless pieces, really.
Is it basically all about the past and what happened?
Kind of capturing the past and bringing these narratives to life. All these buildings were once kind of thriving places of industry, which is quite ironic because the project I'm working on at the moment looks at kind of climate change and stuff like that. So there's definitely links between what I'm researching and current kind of issues on climate. But it mainly is rooted in historic kind of narratives that I would love to bring to people's attention.
And why did you choose this subject matter? Why did you feel it was important for you to document those places and show it to people? Like, I
think it's if you go into an abandoned building, there's this real kind of sense of I don't know, there's all these kind of nostalgic kind of questions that arise around these kind of forms, and they're being completely overtaken by nature, which for me, like, I love nature, so I also draw a lot of trees, and it's kind of combining my love of cities, building, architecture with the natural world, and it kind of is a reminder of how powerful nature is. If you leave a place for 6 months, weeds will start to kind of reclaim parts of the building, and then it makes it crumble, and so it's all visually really stimulating. And then there's also this kind of tension about, am I going to get caught, or is there somebody else in here? It's all this kind of really these elements that add up. And the reason why I do it is because I don't see a future for these buildings. So it is making this a documentary piece so that they'll continue to be reminded, kind of remembered going forward. Sorry, I felt like that was a bit of a ramble there.
No, that's all right.
No.
It's interesting because I'm not a super fan of printmaking, but there are certain people that I can feel like there is a reason behind it. It's not just because they want to make a pretty picture and stuff like that. You can tell, and I feel when I see your work, you using a lot of like marks and texture to create like layer on the plate, and I think that it feels like it's really important for you to go through this, all the marks.
I think that's so with etching, or even lithography, you are physically changing the makeup of a material. So whether that is copper or zinc, and you're using acids to bite away at the material, there's this kind of real physical impact, which again links to how, as humans, we're having on the natural world, and these kind of, we're rebuilding. And that's exactly the same as what I do in an etching plate. I'm continually like manipulating the metal and building it up. And that's why I love the process. It's kind of lends itself to what I'm recording and documenting. And there's a real resonation between the two.
Yeah, it was etching it's a bit different from the other like way of printmaking. And I felt more attached to when I was experimenting with all the process in uni and with etching, just because for me drawing is really important. So when I do etching, it feels like I'm drawing, and I can just use drawing like to create the picture on a plate. So it's just a different material, but it's basically the same process. So
Completely.
I feel that's why I go if I see etching more than any other printmaking process, it's more, I don't know, it feels more I like it more, basically, simply because it looks more like a drawing or something I would like.
Yeah, it's probably the two are the most rooted in the hand-drawn approach to kind of printmaking, because it's direct. You're physically, your needle is touching the surface of the copper and it's gliding through the wax, and therefore it is just like kind of these gestural hand marks that you can make on paper. And that's one of the reasons why I love lithography and etching, because it is so rooted in drawing. And that's kind of my whole practice is underpinned with drawing.
Does it have any special reason why? Because light and shadows and dark area in your practice is really important, feels like. Is it just because that's the process, or is something like you looking like you want to have that outcome?
Yeah, I've kind of, I guess over the last maybe year or so, I've really become fond of kind of capturing reflections in water. And I think that, again, is like a mirror into the past. There's definitely kind of little hidden, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but reflections are incredibly hard to kind of achieve in etching. You've kind of got to really know the material and the process, and aquatint is just absolutely beautiful for that. You get the really rich, deep blacks against the white that can be really impactful. So that's one reason why I use aquatint, is just that you get these punchy blacks in there. And it's taken me maybe like 5 years to really understand the material of etching and intaglio printmaking. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's years and years of practice, and plates going in the bin, and paper being torn up.
What does inspire you to when you go into the building, or when you go like for your walks and stuff, and you stopped and you're like, oh, I need to capture this place in this position? What does it really inspire you? Because for me, obviously I do portrait, so it's more like it's with people, and I feel more attached to the people that I know, obviously, when I go painting. I think sometimes I want to have that connection to the person, because I feel it feels more personal and more intimate, the painting. So what does inspire you to capture that determined room in the building? So it doesn't, because you can choose like a lots of places where how to represent that landscape, but what does inspire you to choose that specific room?
So again, it's about location, and the ones that are the most kind of endangered of being lost, or their lifespan looks really short. So that's when I'll start to kind of maybe do a lot of research and find places that are at risk of kind of crumbling into disrepair. but when I'm in a place, it is all about light and the shadows that the sun is forming on the place. And a lot of these buildings, they're built by the Victorians, so the detail is just so beautiful, and the windows are, the huge windows that kind of pour in all this light, which again, it casts reflections and shadows, which is great to capture. And I think that is then what kind of draws people into the image, and you kind of can put yourself into the scene almost, if that makes sense. So yeah, for me, it is all about kind of there's a lot of geometry going on, a lot of shapes, a lot of
the composition,
areas of dark and light. Yes. So all those kind of contrasting, and when I'm in a space, I can instantly know, oh my God, this would make an amazing etching. Like, I need to capture this. So it's almost like when I'm going around, I'm almost thinking with an etching eye, being like, that would, that is going to be a great accent, or that would make a great lithograph. Which, kind of sends my brain into overdrive then. There's just too much I want to make, not enough time.
Did you ever try to, I don't know, go out the UK, or do you think like finish with the UK landscape? So before moving?
Yeah, I have kind of done a few. So last year I went to Poland to Łódź, which is used to have a huge textile industrial heritage, and there was just huge buildings, just completely derelict and abandoned, but quite secure. So managed to get into one or two places. And then back in 2017, I was doing a residency in Denmark, and I hired a car. I went to this abandoned water park, which was insane. And again, that's more of a social history of economics breaking down in the area. But there's so much here in the UK to kind of record about our industrial heritage that is kind of being lost. It could take me, it's like a lifetime of work just to record what's going on in the UK, let alone going abroad. But I would love to go to places like Detroit in America with all their huge industrial kind of decline.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Which looks extraordinary. So maybe, I'm not ruling it out. It's definitely on my mind. And wherever I go and visit, I always, go. There's these quite geeky urbex sites where people write reports. So say if I'm going, I don't know, going away to Sweden, I'll search, abandoned buildings in Sweden, and I'll make a point of going to them, which drives people mad who I travel with, but that's fine.
they know.
Yeah, it's important.
Do you have any big influence as artists that you look up in the past, or from present, of artists that you know?
Yeah, so I've been past, it's definitely the likes of Piranesi. He was an etcher, and also John Ruskin. I really love his kind of writings on art, and how almost drawing is a way of kind of seeing and developing and kind of educating yourself in good well-being. Also Kath Kollwitz, I don't know if you know her printmaking, but definitely an underestimated kind of printmaker. She did the most beautiful kind of, quite dark and harrowing, but they're really striking images. And then kind of more contemporary is obviously Ian. He's Bristol based, absolutely love his work. Jason Hicklin, the daddy that is Norman Ackroyd, love his process. And then painters wise, I really love Anselm Kiefer's work. I don't know if you know his stuff. Yeah, his kind of the expressionist painting that is so dense and textured, and yet they are continually changing because of the materials that he uses, which is really interesting. And also kind of not just visual artists, but also writers. So I read a lot about Brian Dillon's work on ruins, George Semel, Rose Macaulay. There's kind of, this all feeds into my kind of visual work. I don't know if you find this, but for me, definitely research and practice goes hand in hand. And without
Yeah,
research,
it's
kind of you can't do practice. It's
definitely sure. Especially like if I have, I feel like more when I do a project that I need to look into somebody that did something similar before. So when I was doing the immigrants project, and what I'm still doing it, it's been going on for like 3 years now.
yeah.
I've been looking like even in photography that people that took picture of like immigrants and artists, obviously like painters, and like not even just representing the immigrants, but even the painter himself was the immigrants, and how he interpreted the whole living aboard thing. So it was more in every single aspect I could find and do some research behind. So it definitely, like, for project I do need like research behind the whole project, because it helps a lot.
Yeah.
It just gives you like different ideas and how to approach, and I don't know, it just works well like this.
Completely, yeah. I do a lot of research at the record office in Bristol, because they've got all these amazing archives of historic kind of buildings and planning. I find that is really good, just to understand what historically that place would have been used for. So you can almost put yourself back in time. It's like a portal into the past, which I find really helpful, kind of using all these, they're public records that you can just dive into. Is extraordinary.
It must
to
be.
have.
Yeah, it must be if you're interested like you in those like urban abandoned area. Like if you can read in those it must be like amazing.
Yeah, completely. And then also seeing maps of these places from like 100 or 200 years ago, and just see how crazy like urban expansion has happened. Like it is insane the amount of development that is going on and continually going on. So if you're interested in that kind of history of a place, the record office is definitely a good place to kind of head to.
And are you interested in maybe, I don't know, representing like the present, like, I don't know, building that are being used now?
I don't really find the material all that exciting. So like I love concrete is great, concrete like brutalism, but modern day buildings, I mean, there's great architecture out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I just don't find it's not as charming as something that's like kind of falling down. And
I can imagine.
It has got that kind of the pull of nature reclaiming it all. Not a massive fan of new buildings, I have to say. they don't build them like they used to, with all the the detailing for no reason, just because it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem to happen much anymore.
Yeah, especially I'm from Italy. Like we had decoration in the houses, like we really didn't need to, and even like every single like everyday life building, it was just super decorated for no reason. And it just
What part of Italy are you from?
South of Italy. So nice. Kind of like Puglia, so like the really south.
Nice. You've been able to go back since lockdown?
No, at all.
No.
I was supposed to get my parents here in July for my mom's birthday, but they couldn't come, obviously. And I was supposed to go in September, but instead they are coming in September, so we might see each other at some point. Yeah. So it's just it's been. I was supposed to be in Paris in September as well for the exhibition, but it didn't work out. They had to postpone. Postpone next year. So it just messed the whole traveling situation.
Yes.
Anyway, Jemma, I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to say thank you very much to being part of the podcast. And
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
I was really excited and nervous at the same time because I don't know.
No.
Yeah, it feels like it was really good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. And yeah, if you're ever in South Bristol, swing by the studio. Anyone's
Definitely.
welcome.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jemma.
Great. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
And there was Jemma. What a great artist. Thank you very much for your time. For anyone who wants to get in touch, maybe, who wants to be part of the podcast, please just send me a text and maybe write in the comments if you're listening from YouTube, or just look for my Instagram, which is Matteo Lorusso Art, and just send me a direct message on Instagram. Anyway, there was a great talk. I really enjoyed it. It's so nice to understand what's going on in the other artist's mind, especially if they don't do your practice, because if you are a painter, it's easier for you to understand what the other painter is talking about. But when you find somebody like a printmaker or a sculptor, it's really interesting to understand how they approach the artworks and how they approach their practice and what they're thinking and why they're doing it. So it's really good. Anyway, don't forget, guys, to subscribe, click the button, and share it with everyone. Thank you very much for listening. From the ARTFUL podcast, I'm out.